If you own a home in Minneapolis, there's a pretty good chance you've done this. You pull up Zillow, type in your address, and there it is, your Zestimate. Maybe it says $425,000. Maybe it says $500,000. Maybe you look at it and think, there is absolutely no way my house is worth that much. Or maybe you think, are you kidding me? The house down the street sold for more than that, and mine is way nicer. But here's the problem. If you actually decided to sell tomorrow, the number that Zillow gives you isn't necessarily the number that matters, and neither is your tax value. And frankly, neither is whatever number a real estate agent throws out because they're hoping you'll hire them. The number we're really trying to understand is, what would an actual buyer pay for your house in today's market? And that's what we're going to figure out. Because my approach to real estate is simple. Real estate with clarity, not pressure. I'm not here to convince you your house is worth a certain number so you'll sell it. I want you to understand the evidence so you can decide what makes sense. I'm Dan Winters, I'm a realtor here in the Twin Cities, and let's get into it. First, I'm not going to spend this video telling you Zillow is garbage. It isn't completely garbage. A Zestimate is actually an impressive use of data. Zillow uses public records, property characteristics, previous transactions, comparable properties, market information, and other valuable data to create an estimated value. And Zillow itself describes the Zestimate as an estimate, not an appraisal. And that distinction matters, because there's a natural temptation to see $487,300 and assume the computer knows something incredibly precise. But your home doesn't have one magical number attached to it. There's usually a range of reasonable value. And depending on your property, there may be things an automated system understands really well, and other things it simply can't fully experience the way a buyer does. That's where this gets interesting. Let's imagine two Minneapolis houses, same neighborhood, both built around 1925 and roughly 1,800 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, similar lot size. So on paper, they look incredibly comparable. But then you walk inside. House A has beautifully preserved woodwork. The kitchen has been updated recently. The mechanicals have been taken care of. The basement feels clean and usable. The backyard is fantastic. It's an oasis. House B technically has the same stats, but the floor plan is awkward. The kitchen is dated. There's a lot of deferred maintenance, and it backs up to something buyers don't particularly love. The computer sees a lot of the similarities. The buyer, though, feels those differences. And that matters because buyers aren't buying 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, and 2 bathrooms. They're choosing between actual homes. That's why one of the biggest mistakes sellers make is assuming, if the house down the street sold for $500,000, mine must be worth $500,000 too. Maybe, but we need more information. Now, what about your assessed value, right? Because there's another number homeowners look at, the assessed or estimated market value for property tax purposes. That can absolutely be a useful piece of information, but it still isn't automatically your sales price. The assessor is trying to establish value for a specific purpose. A buyer standing in your kitchen deciding whether to write an offer is making a different decision. And importantly, they're making that decision based on the market right now. What else is for sale? What just sold? What conditions are those homes in? How much competition actually exists? What can they buy with the same budget? So rather than asking which website has the correct number, I think the better question is, what evidence would an actual buyer be looking at? And that gets us much, much closer to useful information. If you called me and said, Dan, I'm not necessarily selling, I just want to know what my house might be worth, that's completely fine. I don't need you to be listing tomorrow for us to have that conversation. Again, clarity first, pressure nowhere. The first thing I'd want to do is actually understand the property. Then I'd start looking at the market. Recent comparable sales matter, but comparable means more than the same zip code. I'm looking at things like location, the property's style, square footage, but more importantly, finished livable square footage. Bedrooms and bathrooms, garage or no garage, your lot, the condition, the overall updates in the home, and the total finished space also comes into play there too. Major mechanical improvements, and then the details that don't fit neatly into a spreadsheet. Is it on a busy street? Does the layout make sense? How does the home show? What does the natural light feel like? What's immediately around the home? And then we get to one of the most important questions. What else can the buyer get for the same money? That's your competition. Let's say we believe your Minneapolis home might be worth $500,000. Here's the exercise. Pretend you're not the seller, pretend you're the buyer. You have $500,000 to spend. Now, go shopping. What else can you buy? Can you get another bedroom? A bigger garage? Maybe a renovated kitchen? A better lot or a bigger lot? A different location? Less work needed to make it your home. Now, put your house next to those homes and ask, would I still choose mine for $500,000? That question is much more powerful than, what does Zillow say? Because that's essentially what buyers are doing. They're not comparing your asking price against your mortgage balance. They're not comparing it against what you spent on renovations. They're comparing your house against their other choices, and that's just the market. There are three numbers sellers tend to get emotionally attached to. The first is what Zillow says. The second is what the neighbor down the street got when they sold their home last year. And the third is what you need. We need $550,000 because that's what makes the next house work. And I understand all three, but none of them forces the buyer to pay that amount. The market doesn't know what you need. It doesn't automatically reimburse every dollar you've put into the property. And it doesn't guarantee your home performs exactly like your neighbors did. That doesn't mean your home is worth less. It actually might be worth more. But the way we figure that out is by looking at evidence rather than starting with the answer we want. That's the whole point of real estate with clarity, not pressure. The goal isn't to manufacture a number that makes you excited. The goal is to get as close as we reasonably can to the truth. So what should you actually trust? I'd look at it this way. Your Zestimate, useful data point. Your assessed value, useful data point. Your neighbor's sale, potentially useful comparable property. But none of those alone tells the whole story. The strongest valuation comes from combining recent comparable sales plus the current competition plus your home's actual condition plus current buyer behavior. And even then, I'd usually rather give someone a realistic range than pretend I know the exact dollar a buyer will pay months before the house ever hits the market. Because we're dealing with humans, and humans are messy. One buyer may love something another buyer absolutely hates. The objective, though, is to understand what the evidence is telling us. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, so what would my house actually sell for? You don't have to be ready to put a sign in the yard to find out. Maybe you're thinking about moving 6 months from now. Maybe next year. Maybe you're just trying to simply understand your options. I'm happy to walk you through the property, look at the actual market around it, and give you my best assessment of what buyers are likely to see. Not, here's the highest number I can tell you so you hire me, but here's what the evidence says, here are the variables, and here are your options. That is real estate with clarity, not pressure. And once you understand what the house may actually be worth, the next question becomes, do you need to fix everything before you sell it? And the answer to that one might save you a lot of money.